start recording anyway.
Okay. Management leadership theories. So, reviewing before we get started on that, what we covered last week, because you weren't here as well. So it was about creating that positive workplace environment. So can you remember?
No.
What were the 5 characteristics of Hackman and Oldham's job design model? You should be able to answer it too, because you've done organisations and management, and we covered it in organisations and management last year. No pressure.
Yeah, Steve Blakely.
Steve Blakely. Okay. So Hackman and Oldham's job characteristics model.
And I like that too.
And you did a little quiz on it about measuring whether you had that in your class, in your work. So it was about skill variety. Yeah, do you remember that? So does that make sense? Skill variety, task identity,
Oh, yeah.
task significance, autonomy, feedback. Those were the 5 key characteristics. And those, when you've got those things going well, it creates 3 critical psychological states around meaningfulness, responsibility, and knowledge, which lead to positive job outcomes, job satisfaction, job performance, low turnover, etc., etc. Okay. So, skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback. All right. Does that ring a bell?
Sort of, yeah.
Vague, but very faint bell. Okay, you can go back and swap up on it. The 3, yeah?
No.
Right. What were the 3 levels of organisational culture? There was an iceberg, remember?
Oh. Yeah. I couldn't remember.
So, with an iceberg, there's the visible part that's above the water, so there's the visible signs of culture, so those are the artefacts, they call them, symbols, logos,
Yeah.
ceremonies, rites, rituals, slogans. Then there is the invisible part.
Is it the visions and...
Yeah, so the expressed values. So
Yeah.
these are the values that are underpinning the organisational values, behaviours and norms. And then there's underlying assumptions underneath that.
Culture and everything
The deeper beliefs about how people engage with each other around here. So
else.
organisational culture is about how we do things around here. And creating a positive workplace culture. How do we change workplace culture?
It's hard.
Not very easily.
Yeah.
Very easily. So we have to actually identify what are the current norms for behaviour.
Yeah.
What do we want the norms for behaviour to be, to look like? What do we want a culture to look like? And what's the gap? And then what steps we're going to take to actually close that gap, okay? So it might be, rebrand,
Always rebrand.
putting out new values. Organisations actually have to promote internally those values, advertise them, but also walk the talk, like it has to be embedded in every action. And explained, it has to be really explicit initially that we're doing this because it aligns with this value or because it aligns with this, overall purpose and why we're here, and that's our expectation for behaviour. So yeah, you have to keep reinforcing it. We also talked about work-life balance.
Yeah.
And what was the key point around work-life balance?
Flexibility, wasn't it?
Hmm?
A lot of around flexibility.
Flexibility, yeah. Key concepts. So we've got that Flexible Working Arrangements Amendment Act that came in quite a few years ago, which actually gives us a legal right to ask for flexible work practices.
But not get it.
The employee can still deny you, but we do have that embedded within the legislation. But work-life balance is really around acknowledging that actually, if we can cater to people's need for work-life balance, that can also really be a really positive, create a really positive culture, because people can meet their needs outside of work and meet their needs within work as well. So
We have that on one of our guys, he has Tuesday, Wednesdays off,
Yeah.
because that's when his wife does.
Yeah, exactly.
And for us, it's good because we get cover on the weekend when normally,
Yeah, he's happy to work weekend and most people aren't, so.
well, otherwise they pay pay rates as well, so.
Exactly, right. So that's good, yeah, so if you can juggle things, if you can do job sharing or flexi hours or whatever, then it can actually create some really good outcomes for people. And we talked about employee engagement. Can you remember what were two of the key issues that often are for employee engagement surveys?
Management, communication.
Yeah, performance management and communication. Exactly, they often come score quite low, a lot of organisations, around perception of how those organisations run. So, but employee engagement is about, we have employees who are engaged and actively, constructively working towards the goals of the organisation. We have employees who are disengaged, who are a bit more sort of ambivalent and maybe plodding along doing the bare minimum. And then we have people who are actively counterproductive to the workplace and are sabotaging the workplace from within. So you hope you don't have too many of those within the organisation. So actually, employee engagement is really important because obviously having more people in that first category is ultimately going to help contribute to achieving organisational goals. So all of those were the key points for creating a positive workplace culture. And there was quite a bit of reading that went around with that as well. Was there any thoughts on the readings from last week? I'm just going to keep on asking you guys.
Yeah.
This week we're talking about what is leadership theory, how it's evolved over time, and then we'll look at those key sort of trait, behaviour, contingency, influence, relational, emerging theories. So tell me when we hit the ones that you know, and tell me when we hit the ones that you really have no clue about, okay? So, defining leadership. What is it? We should know that by now, right? What it says there. And you'll see it defined in so many different ways, but it is about who are those leaders and how they're shaping and changing people's behaviours and creating outcomes. Who are the most influential leaders you've encountered in your personal, in your life? Doesn't have to be anybody famous.
No. A guy called Ken Kurikana.
Why him?
He used to be my judo instructor.
Cool.
And then I ended up teaching him jiu-jitsu.
Well, there you go.
He's good.
When the leader-follower relationship switches.
But he was a very good man. Very good.
Okay.
One I think off the top of my head was Andrew McCarthy from JB2 when I was there, and he was sort of coaching me for the Bishop Lyons speech contest and when he, 2008.
Why was he good there?
Well, he sort of kept sort of pushing me to get better at what I was doing. I ended up getting third place overall, which was his.
So they keep on pushing you, challenging you.
So and that way sort of keep pushing you to do better and stuff. When I've started going back to the gym recently, the first time I went back there this time, there was one of my relatives, he was actually there. I've had a few workout sessions with him. He's sort of been sort of pushing me to get better at sort of just the whole go.
So they make you exceed your own expectations for yourself. It's one good indicator of a good leader, I guess. The evolution of leadership theory over time, and we probably have covered this before, but originally there was that sort of thought that leaders are born, they have specific traits or personalities, or there's something about them that means that makes them a good leader, or that they're born into the right family. So, when it came to sending people off to war and who got to be a general and who got to be a foot soldier, it was about which family you were born into, what level of status you achieved. So we had pretty old-fashioned ideas about leadership. It wasn't necessarily based on who was an effective leader. And we'll look at the trait theories, but they have, even the research around those has been very contradictory in and of itself. We did then move into the 20th century where we started to look about Oh, sorry, that was the traits theory. We started there to look at the physical characteristics, personality, skills, abilities, social factors. So that was the trait theory. Before it was, you're born into the right family. Then it's like you've got these specific traits. It was even things like, about height, or age, or personality factors. So it was even, quite abstract things about what makes a good leader. And then in the 21st century, there's nothing to do with traits. It's about behaviours or the situation or the ability to influence. So there's a number of other important factors that make a good leader, and that's where this sort of research tends to focus these days. So it certainly has evolved. They called it the great man theory with trait theories, because obviously leadership was a male thing back in the day. But it was certainly, focusing on personality attributes. There were plenty of studies done, trying to find out, was it about your speech, was it about your popularity, was it about your height, which of these traits made great leaders. And some of the research did come out, to show that, links between some of these things, but they were rather tentative and they didn't hold in every situation. That was the problem. You couldn't actually generalise it across specific situations. So that reading that I've given you today, the big one, that has basically got all of these, I think, within it. So the trait approach, so it's page 37. So it's a good resource for you if you do want to go back and read through a bit more of some of that research around the trait theories.
This is right at the beginning about the course, too, isn't it?
Right at the beginning of...
Yes, of course.
We're
It's on
talking-
one of the readings.
Oh, is it? Oh, very good. Have attention. I don't remember that. So-
Did I read wrong stuff?
So there were, some evidence to suggest that some things like maybe intelligence, initiative, interpersonal skills, self-confidence, those sorts of factors, might be quite important for effective leadership. But then they still came back to it depends on the situation. Any thoughts?
Well, it was before they did all the personality profiling and stuff like that, so probably where a lot of that's evolved from.
Yeah, they were trying, they're trying to do the personality tests and
Yeah,
link these
Figure out.
particular attributes,
yeah.
do a correlation between successful leadership and, do you meet these particular boxes?
You can see why they did it.
Yeah,
You can see, like, this is what we want to see.
yeah. It's a
Not-
good hypothesis.
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
Why not say that the more intelligent you are, the better leader you're going to be?
Also from breeding, because if you're from an upper class, you probably have higher education, so therefore you probably going to know more.
You're probably
You
going to
should be a
more
big leader.
Yeah.
So,
So trait theories didn't, haven't been proven to be particularly reliable in determining our leadership, but has been very important because it's sort of given us definitely more understanding around it. The behavioural theories, said, well, let's focus instead on what the behaviours the leaders are engaging in. So are they more autocratic versus democratic in their leadership style? So, democratic is where you're getting the team involved in the decision making versus autocratic where you're just making the decisions for them. So this is where we had like the Iowa studies and the Michigan studies. Do you remember the Ohio State studies?
I do remember the name and stuff.
Vaguely, yeah.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. So they were really focusing on this page 42. University of Iowa, Kurt Lewin, research included children and they were looking at instructed either in an autocratic or a democratic kind of a way. And the expectation was that people would be more likely to follow a leader who was more democratic. But then actually they found some quite diverse results, and although they actually found that some of the people with the autocratic leaders actually performed better. So it was not necessarily all conclusive. So it depended a little bit on the situation. So again, we came out with some inconclusive sort of findings around the type of leadership style, and it came back to it depends on the situation. Hence the next lot of theories being called the situational theories or the contingency theories. They also looked at task versus people focused. So they said, well, okay, if it's not just about autocratic versus democratic, we look at how much the leader is focusing on the needs of the people versus the needs of the task. And this is still this dichotomy sort of made, and most of us, if you think about your own orientation in these sorts of things, you sort of tend to classify yourself, I think I'm quite task focused, because I will ignore people who are talking to me and try and have a nice conversation to try and get my work done. But leaders can have a sort of different focuses as well. They're either focused on achieving the goal, or they're focused on meeting the needs of the employees and their staff, or some combination thereof. Okay, so you started to get looking at how did that impact on leadership as well. There's that one there. It started to come through in the Ohio State studies where they looked at consideration versus initiating structure. So consideration was the extent to which the leader is sensitive to the subordinates, respects their feelings, ideas of mutual trust, appreciation and listening and so forth. Initiating structure was the extent to which they focus on the task and direct the subordinates towards goal achievement. How much do they monitor, schedule, control work activities. So they're looking at the effect of the that focus, and that was sort of elaborated on with the University of Michigan studies as well, where they were looking at employee-centered behaviour and employee-centered style of leadership. So that's where they came out with the employee-centered versus job-centered, and they came out with that leadership grid in the University of Texas. That's on page 47. Do you remember that from Organisations and Management? We have looked at that one. So you come out, concern for results, concern for people, and they came out with a sort of a framework there for looking at overall team management or authority compliance management or impoverished management or whatever. So you sort of set yourself up with a bit of a matrix there and fall somewhere in that category. So the behavioural theories were really looking at, what is the focus for that particular leader in terms of how they approach it, and also they talked about in-group versus out-group. Okay, so the in-group versus the out-group was around the vertical dyad linkage model, page 49. I don't think we covered that one in Organisations and Management. And that was about, you sort of create cliques within the teams, and there'll be a group that are on side with the manager and a group who might be out of the manager's sort of key focus or their favour or whatever. So you generally find that there are people who are highly trusted within a group or team, and then there's people who aren't. So where you sit within that is going to affect that leadership for you as an employee, essentially. You could call it kissing up to the boss or whatever, but it certainly has an impact on how that interaction between the employee and the boss as to whether or not you're on the in or on the out. questions about behavioural theories? I mean, the point with these ones is the same with trait, is that it assumes that the manager does the same sort of thing, approaches each situation in the same kind of way. If you're an autocratic leader, you're always an autocratic leader. But the problem is you're not. No. I mean, if you've ever been a leader, so you've obviously been a leader because you've coached
I've done 10 years of management as well.
10 years of management and you've done coaching and those sorts of things. Zane? Any sort of leadership experience that you
I'm sort of trying to think of sort of one. I mean, well, the one that just came to mind now with this the council leadership or just whatever, but when I was at high school, my final year of high school, when I was head boy, we went up to this.
You were head boy, there you go, you were a leader already.
True, there was that. I was actually something was following that, but we went up to this leadership thing in Auckland and we had to get into teams, and it was basically just a sports day, but I was don't know why, but I was pretty much forced into the role of team captain, team leader. But they ended up calling that I didn't really get much choice in this. They called themselves Captain Zano and the Insanos. And the team chart was Zano, let's go Insano. Good time.
So you might have been more of a democratic leader in that situation and the group make some decisions without your input.
It's like the opposite of polar opposite of orthodoxy. I got very little say.
And what would you think? What would you think your leadership, approach would?
Depends on the situation, yeah.
And that's, I guess that's the point. If you've been in a leadership situation and had some experience with that, you know that you do shift depending on who it is, who your followers are. Followers, we call them, but who the employees or the group or how ready they are to follow, whether they've got the skills and experience to do so, or whether they actually do need more direction. There's quite a number of factors that you actually start to look at, and that's where the contingency theories really came in. And that said that actually it depends on the situation and the nature of the followers. Now, if you're in a high risk situation, say health and safety, then you're not going to take a democratic approach to letting the employees decide how they're going to manage it. If there are specific health and safety requirements that must be met, you must meet those. You must make your team meet those requirements. That's how it is, right? And yet, if you were managing the same group in another scenario, you could probably let them make some decisions and be a bit more democratic about it. So there were quite a number of, and we covered all of these in organisations and management. Do you remember all those ones?
Room
Jaeger, you remember?
Oh, that's one I don't remember. The other ones, definitely.
Okay, have a look at
Probably just need to read up.
Fiedler's contingency model, page 55. This one was based on that least preferred co-worker scale. Do you remember that? They got people to rate their least preferred co-worker. And if they rated them, I can't remember exactly. If they rated, how they rated their least preferred co-worker indicated whether or not they were task or people focused, essentially, as a leader. And so that ultimately gave them a measure of whether or not they were more likely to be, focused on the followers or the employees, or focused on the task. And then they also linked that in with how well defined the tasks were. So there's a diagram on page 58. And the level of power that the leader also has was important as well, whether it was strong or weak. And so then they sort of developed a bit of a matrix looking at, okay, so, performance is going to be dependent on whether or not you're task-focused or relationship-oriented is going to be affected by the followers, the task structure, and the position power. So actually it gets quite complex when you start to break it all down in that way. So that was the contingency model that they put forward. Hershey and Blanchard's situational theory, page 60, was also another one that sort of expanded on that leadership grid that we looked at before, and again looked at follower readiness. Okay, so people were either ready to follow or they weren't ready to follow, and so you have to adapt your leadership style depending on that readiness. Okay. Bottom of page 61, if you've got low readiness, you take a telling approach. It was telling, selling, participating, and delegating. That ring a bell?
No, yeah,
It does, yeah.
Definitely does.
Yeah. So you have to think about the skill level, the motivation level, those sorts of factors, how much support they actually need, as to whether you can take a delegating approach or whether you can have to take a telling or a selling approach. Okay. Half goal theory was really looking at, where is that? Page 64. Really looking at, it is a motivational theory, and it was looking at setting goals or KPIs and then measuring achievement of those, and using rewards to sort of reinforce that. So it's certainly, the situation, each situation required a different sort of goal setting approach, and then, establishing how they were going to achieve that. So definitely also more of a motivational theory as well. And Vroom-Yago contingency model, that one there, page 68. Focus on varying degrees of participative leadership, okay, and asks a whole range of diagnostic questions for leadership style, and then that will give you an indication as to what level of member involvement you have in making the decision. So for that one, I think it came out with, that was like, so page 69, it's got the 5 different leader decision styles: decide, consult, individually consult, the group, facilitate, or delegate. But they had to go through that, it was like a decision tree. Do you remember the decision tree? And decide, how significant is it? What's the importance of the commitment? What's the level of expertise? And then if you answered all of those questions, it would come out with you are consultative or you are, authoritative. Okay, so that was kind of that approach that, again, was really focused on the situation and specifics. Even more complicated than just saying, are our followers ready, or have we got task or people focus? It was like, actually, we can follow a sort of decision format to decide what's the most appropriate style.
See, that one to me seems very, very time-consuming.
Exactly.
Yeah, look at that matrix, I just sort of put that on, definitely put that one down.
You remember that now?
Yeah.
And it can be quite, I mean...
But the consultation thing, you have to go and speak to every single person in the group. If you've got a team of 12 people.
Well, your consultation might be getting everybody to send in their thoughts, and if 1 or 2 people do, that's fine. Or getting people together as a group and asking for their opinion. It doesn't have to be time-consuming to do a bit of consultation. The question is, what do you do with that consultation? Do you follow what they suggest completely? Do you just take on board what they suggest and then do what you're going to do anyway? Or do you take it on board and change what you're going to do slightly but still retain authority overall? So that was the framework sort of provided for different options depending on the scenario.
I mean, if you ask people's feedback and then totally ignore it,
yes,
you're going to do more damage than not asking at all.
Potentially, yeah. I guess unless you explain that that's what the situation requires, I don't know. But I think the other problem with something like that is people tend to be more intuitive leaders than that. You know, people don't tend to go, right, I've got a decision to make. Let's work out what style we're going to use to make the decision. But, you know, they usually jump straight into what do we need to know to make the decision. Here's a good solution, let's run with that. You know, it does come back to decision-making practices, essentially, which we covered in O&M as well. But, yeah, managers or leaders will often be more intuitive in their approach. But sometimes you sort of go, well, why did you consult with the team on that one? Well, because I wanted their buy-in. Why did you not consult with the team on that one? Because they've all got a whole lot of opinions that are contradictory and not very helpful, and I'm the coach, so I know best anyway. Okay, I don't actually want to get into debate because we need to make a decision quickly, and so, you know, like, I think, you know, these are great if you really want to understand some of the things that can affect leadership, right? But when we come to leadership in practice, I think, you know, the theory gets a little bit left behind.
Well, I read something like that average leader makes 300 decisions a day or something.
Yeah. So you can't exactly go through that process for every single decision, no. But when you're talking about significant things, so maybe an organisation restructure that's going to impact on, you know, people's jobs and livelihoods, then maybe you want to think a little bit more carefully about whether you take legally you're going to have to take a bit of a consultative approach, but you know, whether how much you engage or to what extent, yeah. Maybe not in the private sector. Influence theories are based on how you use power and influence to get things done. Okay, so it's in organisation and management, we looked at the fact that people get power from different sources. Like you've got coercive power, or you've got reward power, or expert power, referent power. Do you remember those? No?
Or do read the terms.
So you might have power because you've got the ability to dish out rewards or to punish, but you might have power because of your position in the organisation.
Or power because how popular you
Or because you're popular or you're nice. That's the sort of referent power. People like you.
Power because of who you know.
Who you know, or because you've got expertise in a particular area. People who have expertise in a given situation are often, you become the leader and take on power. So, French and Raven's 5 bases of power. There's some really cool little quizzes in there for leadership style and stuff. So, you know, you can go through. That's why I printed that out, so you can go through and do the quizzes.
I've done those ones where you send 1 to 10 and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if they're actually in there, the French and Raven. No, maybe it's in the next one. Or maybe it's in the Moodle stuff. Hang on, let's look. It was in the Moodle stuff.
I remember doing that matching activity with the styles of.
Yeah. Yeah. So French and Raven look at it as political power, personal power, and position power, which overlap. This is on Moodle. So political, personal, and position power, and they overlap. And then here you've got information, in the very middle. Here you've got connection. Personal power could be expert or referent, so we talked about those. position power could be legitimate, reward, or coercive. So these are those sources of power I was just talking about. Oh yeah, there you go. So that's information power comes in there, and connection power comes in there, which might be those networks and things that you're talking about. So basically it's just taking those different, you've got those different sources of power, and then we overlap them, and it gives a bit of a overview of where your power comes from as a leader. So, if all you've got is coercive power, yeah, then people are going to resent you, because you just punish them if they don't do it well. We think about parenting, for example. It's a good example of leadership. We've got legitimate power because you're the mum or the dad or whatever. You've got coercive power because you can say, if you don't do that. My daughter started saying to me, "Mum, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to go and put you up on a mountain." "Mum, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to hit you." She's 3.
I mean, Mum's told me stories about how I used to throw tantrums, and at one stage I'd say, I'm moving out of the house.
Yeah.
I was about 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah, oh gosh,
And then later on she said to me, "Why haven't you moved out?" And apparently I said, "I can't move out until after tea time."
Good logic. But parents usually use coercive. If you don't do that, we will put you on timeout, or we will take this off you, or whatever. You use reward power. If you do that, we'll give you a lollipop, or we'll take you to the beach, or we'll take you to the park. Parents have expert power. I'll show you how to tie your shoelaces if you don't know how to do it. And hopefully they have referent power, depending on the stuff. But, it's kind of, looking at those different bases of power and thinking about what's the most effective, for in a situation, for people to be wanting to follow your lead, I guess. If you're only using coercion, you're not going to really get there. Charismatic leadership, and we've probably heard that one before. That's those leaders, and they have the referent. That's where the referent part sort of comes from. But charismatic leaders is the people who you look up to, they inspire you, they make you want to, work hard, just because of who they are. They're personable, likeable. Some of that personality stuff probably comes into charismatic leadership, right? Maybe they're a bit outgoing or a bit humorous, but respectful. I don't know. Any other ways you would describe a charismatic leader?
Sums it up.
Hey?
Pretty much sums it up.
Sums it up. There we go. Daft and Perella actually give you some characteristics. They're likeable, trustworthy, they create an atmosphere of change, they're focused on future goals, they articulate, so they can articulate their goals and their vision. They're competent, they might not behave in a normal way, so they actually behave a little bit differently, and they have influence, so they're actually able to influence people and change their ideas or persuade them somehow. So charismatic leadership is important and is often linked with transformational leadership, do you remember the difference between transactional and transformational leadership?
It was based on change, wasn't it?
That was transformational.
Yeah, so transactional is where you're getting the people to engage to the desired level or meet the expected sort of targets. Transformational is where you're really getting people to go above and beyond the call of duty and achieve higher than that, So transformational leadership is really where you are building on your charisma, your expert referent power to actually deliver significant change that is effective. So it's really focused on visions and future goals and 4 components needed for transformational leadership. It's an idealized influence, so you're a role model for followers, you walk the talk, inspirational motivation, So you have the ability to inspire and motivate others. Individualized considerations to show genuine concern for people, the followers' needs and feelings. Genuine concern. And intellectual stimulation. So you actually can challenge people and encourage them to be innovative and creative. You know? So we're actually we're not going easy on people, you're still challenging them. So I think with organisations and management, we watched a video on Sir Peter Blake as a transformational leader, and that's available in the library in the book if you're interested. Nice little video of him. Can you think of any other transformational leaders?
The one that comes to mind, I suppose that Rich McCall.
Rich McCall, yeah, sure. Good.
I mean, he was captain of the All Blacks and they had a bloody successful campaign. He sort of pushed them to be the best.
And he's done so much more above and beyond that as well,
yeah.
hasn't he?
I can't remember his name, but he was a prince of the United Emirates, because he dreamed to have that massive, no, Dubai, wasn't it?
Okay.
He decided he wanted a massive hotel, so he built the land from the sea.
Ah, right.
He was a prince or something.
Yeah. I think about people like Richard Branson, I guess, probably say he's probably reasonably transformational. We won't get into politicians.
No, I thought I'd stick away from that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, those really, I think, what's the name? Mark Zuckerberg, is he transformational? I don't know. What about Steve Jobs? He probably was.
Yeah, cool.
He brought about huge change. There's some really good movies
how
on.
did he do it though?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a really good. I have watched a movie on him. It was really actually quite well done, and it was quite interesting to watch that process. And same Zuckerberg as well. There's some good movies out there about the rise of things like Apple and Facebook. Worth looking at, because you know they do. The thing is, they don't give up. You know, they don't get defeated by something. They actually. And there was a movie about a woman, Joy. It was called Joy, the movie. Solo mum, housewife in the, I think she must have been in the 60s or 70s or something, and she creates a mop, and she just did not give up until it was successful, and she created, you know, she had nothing. She created this huge, it's based on a true story, created a huge empire, but she just did not give up. Well, she gave up once, but then she carried on. You know, it's a good movie, actually. It was quite interesting. But, you know, and people bought in with what she was doing because of that persistence. All right, we're going to carry on. Relational theories. So those theories sort of focus on how people interact, leaders and followers. And this is still, it's linked quite closely to those theories of influence, obviously, because a lot of those influence theories are about how we interact, how do we have power, how do we exert our influence on others. So this is definitely linked in quite closely with that. But they do look at this term of stewardship or service. The extent of service is looking at, you know, empowering employees and encouraging them to basically provide service to the leader, a servant leader sort of approach. And in your modal work, there's the 7 pillars of servant leadership. I should put it into the diagram here, but I can bring it up. Yeah. 7 pillars of servant leadership. It's kind of words we don't really use so much anymore, which makes it sound a bit old-fashioned, but it's kind of a concept of actually let's be in under leadership theories in here. national series. Here it is.
Oh,
Here we go. 7 pillars of servant leadership. Person of character, a servant leader. So servant leader puts people first, skilled communicator, compassionate collaborator, has foresight, systems thinker, leads with moral authority. Okay, and those are the pillars, and then they embed those within employees, customers, community, strategy, culture. Okay, so sort of create a type of leadership approach where you're there to serve the people that are following you. Okay, and then the followers will follow and serve. It goes around in a circle. But yeah, there's definitely that notion that that you're a servant to the people you lead. You might have heard of that before. And then people will serve. And there's a reading activity there around that as well. There's quite a lot of reading now to do, essentially. I would suggest you look at, just try and, even, like, don't read them in full detail, skim through, pick out the key points, read enough to get a sense of each of the different things that you're looking at, and then carry on. Because you could spend months reading about leadership. But yeah, we want to focus on the practical side of it, which is probably going to be more interesting. So emerging theories, they talk about authentic leadership, and this idea of being real, being true to yourself, not trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not, or putting on a, and it's kind of contrary to some of the other things we've talked about, where we go, actually, if you're going to be a good leader, you have to consciously decide to be people focused or task focused or autocratic or democratic or consultative or whatever, so it's actually, authentic leadership is probably more about being yourself as a leader, but there might be some downsides to that as well. Yeah, we're more likely to trust somebody if we think they're being genuine, right? But then what if their authentic self is not somebody that you particularly like?
exactly right.
That's the problem. So there's not really, I don't think there's a reading about that, but it was just to say, there's constantly new theories coming out about leadership and approaches to take, essentially.
Don't agree with that one.
No.
Throw that away.
Throw that one out, Linda. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of hard, We can't just say, oh, this is what you need to do to be a good leader.
I think a lot of it is innate as well.
Yeah.
But we've got guys in our who we work with, and one just doesn't make decisions, hates making decisions, doesn't like any responsibility.
So that's the leadership behaviour is about decision making. It's a big part of leadership is actually having the guts to make a decision, make a call, and take that responsibility on. So find people people have different levels of confidence to do that in different scenarios. If it's your field of expertise, so we go back to your source of power, then yes, you'll be more likely to make a decision. If it's not your field of expertise, you'll be like, I'll leave it up to you. And that's where, like, when organisations are doing recruitment, selection, and performance management and things, they can use things like assessment centres where you get groups of staff or groups of potential applicants together and do some role plays and give them some scenarios and see how they actually engage in that scenario. If you're looking for leadership skills, do they step up and take some leadership action or not? That's a really useful. Those assessment centres can be really useful for actually seeing how people interact. Even though it's simulated, they're interacting with a group in a in a scenario.
I've done some stuff like that, and I found one group was in, there was probably 6 of us, and probably 4 people were natural leaders,
Yeah.
and it just didn't go well.
No. 4 natural leaders, 3 too many maybe.
And that's the thing, everyone was trying to
Yeah.
get their idea across what they want to do,
Yeah.
and how it would be best to be done,
Yeah.
and it just become a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting as well. What happens when you get too many leaders?
And if,
Not
if
enough.
and if you're trying to get that leadership,
Yeah.
so you're trying to get a group together that might be a leader.
Yeah.
Mm.
You gotta go?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're wrapping up anyway. Just carry on with the reading. There's no class next week. Okay. Not for me. Keep the beat in it. See you. Right, okay. I'll switch the camera off. But yes, that's pretty much the leadership theories. You just read through them. Do the little quizzes because they're fun.
I've done those.
Damn.
I did this right at the end of this course. I think,
You found that early on.
yeah. I read the whole lot.
Huh?
I did read the whole lot and do the whole
Well
thing.
done, you. Well done. There's a TED talk there on why good leaders make you feel safe.
Oh, okay.
And there are 4 course forum posts for this particular topic, so I'm going to keep you busy with your course forums.
Yeah.
But just remember, it's little bits and pieces that chip away your overall mark.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you don't have to write an